Hey all, boardgamerants here where you'll find everything solo tabletop gaming and more. Today we're going to look at Newton from a solo perspective. Of course, let's dig into what the game is about and I'll let you know what I'm thinking on the other side. So welcome to Newton. Nice little clean Euro game here. Quick little view. You got yourself a card drafting, tableau building, and then here's the main board out here. You're just trying to score victory points, and you've got you're trying to do all this research and gain all this knowledge, and the more knowledge you gain over the course of 6 rounds, the better. The higher the better. And in the solo game, there's actually a little bit of a table that so you can kind of judge your based on your score where you rank. And so there's a number of different types of actions you can do. So there's sort of a track like action that you can do. You can run your scientist around the world here and learn stuff that way. You can use your students here and move up on these little technology tracks and learn stuff that way. You can move your marker up here along this track, and that's kind of the work track, I guess. So there's a work track, there's this and this has branches. The technology has different branches that lead you. You have to kind of pick a path and work it. And here again, another sort of track that you can kind of move around. You just got to follow the little doohickeys and follow certain rules to get to areas. And then down here you've got this is where you whatever you study, and you can take this is your personal player boards right here. So that's the main 2 game boards. Here's your personal board, and if you study, what you'll be doing is trying to basically cover up spots here with your books. I mean, you can flip. You're supposed to maybe use the cooler looking graphic here when you cover up these spots, but I don't know, it kind of gets lost for me. It kind of gets lost in the, it's like, is that covered? Or, at a glance, it's much easier to tell what things are covered if you just do that. So anyway, I leave this like this. And, but then at the end of each round, and like I said, there's 6 rounds, you get to score rows and columns that are completed. So I basically would score 2 points at the end of each round as soon as these 2 spots are covered up. But you have to fulfill certain things. I have to have visited this school and have books, 2 green books displayed in my tableau in order to basically cover these up. So, and then lastly, the other main action you can take is I think it's called the study action, where basically you draft more powerful cards to help you take actions. And you'll take actions by, you're going to have this basic hand of cards here that you start with. And I'm not sure if they're all the same. I played the same color the whole time I've been playing this. But so I think they're basically all the same, but these are very basic cards. And there's 2 parts to each card. The top half sort of like boost your action possibly. And then the bottom is the actual action. Like this little symbol is actually the, moves your scientist around. You can kind of see right there, a little symbol that matches the card, so you can kind of tell what you get to activate. Okay, so if I play this, I get to move my scientist. If I play this card, then I get to go over and do some card drafting. If I play this card, I get to work. This is a wild symbol, so I can use it for anything. And again, here is the study, and then here is the technology symbol. So all these different cards, once you play them, you'll have your hand. You're just going to put them out there and kind of work your way left to right. And each time you put out a card, you get to activate its action. One cool thing is that if you put out a card and you happen to have other cards or symbols on your board that match it, well then it enhances the power, the strength of that action. So for instance, with this, I'd be able to move my scientist 2 spaces instead of just 1, because I would add up the symbols. And then if I place this wild card here, I can basically use that as any symbol, and then I would get, so I could use this to either say do a kind of a power 2 technology, or a power 2 work action, or a power 2 study action, or a power 3 explore action, or travel action with my scientist. So yeah, so as you're playing cards, you're going to enhance your actions depending on the cards that you build up too. So like when you take this this action here, this allows you to go over here and pick, well, if you only have a level 1, if this was the only symbol when I play it, then I'd only be able to take from this row here, these level 1 cards. But if I can power it up to level 2 or level 3, I can take some of these cool bigger cards. And of course, now you're getting all sorts of bonuses. Now you're getting victory points and money. And then, you know, these potions help you kind of replace things that you don't have. You can use potions instead. And then, and the books. So the books are very important in that if you ever want to cover up a space out here in your study, you have to have books laid out in your tableau. The correct color books. So you just got to kind of match them. So like, you know, here I could, with a level 1 study action, I could cover up, because I have a green book out, I could cover up this with my little tile there. And then you'll get, you know, of course, other cards, this whole stack of cards here that has just different, these level 3 cards are very, very strong, but you can get some that, you know, I'm not, there we go. I have a bunch of books on them, of course, all these different little actions, but as that's how you're going to be able to eventually get, you know, some of these like 3 orange books and a set of the 3 different colors, and because you have to have, again, those out on your tableau. And there's also these master cards as well that you can pick from and drop, and there's a whole stack over here that you'll draw. When you're playing solo, you'll draw 6 of them, and then you get to keep 4. But those can very much change up your game as you play them out, and they'll become kind of a permanent thing in your tableau. And so now I'd have like a permanent 2 green books. But those are the master cards that can score you some extra points and give you some bonuses. And then as you're playing the game, you're going to be switching out cards. You'll want to be getting more cards, because at the end of each round, you're going to score some stuff here. You're going to reset your cards. That is after you've played, you know, 5 cards out. But then at the end of the round 2, you're going to pick one of your cards that you played, and you're going to tuck it underneath your board there. And now that's going to always enhance. It's no longer in your hand. You can no longer play it out in your tableau. And if there was an action on there or some sort of boost there, it's gone now for the rest of the game. But you always got to pick one card here at the end of each round, and then you've got kind of a permanent boost to an action. And you're going to do that again. You know, then that's definitely why you want to buy more cards. Otherwise, you're going to run out of cards. You know, you start with 6, and but eventually you're just going to have, you know, a bunch of cards under here. And near the end of the game, you're probably not going to want to be using. You're going to want to be using these blank ones probably more than anything else. But you know, at the end of the game, you're going to have a nice board that's enhanced by these cards that you've dropped down like that at the end of each round. When you go out here, you can use these guys to come out, and they can grab these tiles out here that you can place on your board to enhance your actions. And out here, the way you're gonna score points as you're playing, according to your study and stuff here. But there's all sorts of different ways you can score. You can also move your scientist over to these little guys right here. These are end game scoring opportunities for you. So you kind of look out on the board at the beginning of each game and kind of see what direction you want to go in. Because if you try to do, you know, a little this and a little this and a little this and a little, you know, little everything, you're going to get nowhere. You're going to really want to need to zero in on a strategy based on the tiles that come out that particular game. And these are going to come out different. These little one-time bonuses are going to come out different. Everything kind of comes out in a different way, in a different spot each game, kind of mixing things up. And then you're going to have your different end game opportunities here. Whoop. Each game to focus on, and you're going to have to get your little student all the way over there, and then once you get there, you're going to have the right books in your tableau in order to be able to take advantage of that opportunity. So you're going to have to build your study up, or your books on your tableau up, in order to be able to get to certain scoring opportunities according to, that's kind of the price of entry there. And yeah, after 6 rounds, you'll kind of have the points that you scored round to round, and then you're going to have points based on, you know, your maybe a few MasterCards or a couple MasterCards that you put out. You'll get victory points for that, and then you'll get your end points here based on different factors there. All right, well, let's talk more about, oh yeah, and over here we got these boards. The only difference between the boards is that they kind of give you a pre-printed bonus. You know, one of the 4 main actions are the different boards. So, all right, let's talk about what I'm thinking about playing Newton solo. All right, so setting this game up, it's pretty easy. 10 to 15 minutes out of the box. You got her rolling. 5 to 10 minutes to reset between plays, probably closer to 5 minutes. So pretty quick reset. And table space, you know, easily on a coffee table. You can squeeze that on there. Typical 3x3, probably a 3x2 foot space is all you need. Kind of more width than depth. The length of play, you're looking at about half hour to 45 minutes, really. You know, once you get the game mechanics down, and it's not difficult to get the game mechanics down. It's really, well, I mean, it's really pretty darn straightforward once you know what's going on, and which is kind of one of my issues with the game, which it's not an issue, but something we'll talk about here in a second. But I played about 7 times now, I think, and yeah, easily half hour to 45 minutes. You get a nice quick clip going, and the component value is and quality is, I don't know, average, I guess. You know, the game cost was about average. I don't know, it was like a $60 game, I think. And the component quality and stuff that you get with it is, I don't know, it's kind of on par, very average. And and the theme for a Euro game, very average. You know, it's I don't know, you're a scholar or something, I don't know, just trying to learn stuff. It's Newton, right? You know, whatever, the law of physics, and so you're trying to, the theme is loosely, it's not, there's really hard, I mean, there's sort of a track over here that you go on, and you have to follow certain rules, and a track over here that you go on, and you follow certain rules, and a track over here that you go on, and so there's these little tracks kind of thing, and then there's your board that just sort of represents your study, and then you've got your card drafting, so there's sort of very could have been a lot of different themes here, and the rule book though is pretty succinct. I did not find that I needed to really, I don't remember really, maybe looked up an FAQ a time or two. So there's always something to be said about that when you don't have to spend the bulk of your experience looking up how to play a game right. This one was awfully straightforward, I thought, and everything was right there in the rule book that you pretty much needed. The mechanics are, as I mentioned, very easy. Once you get all figured out, it kind of looks like a big sprawling, a little intimidating at first, but I mean, after your first game, it immediately goes away as the straightforwardness kicks in, and really that's where you kind of realize, aha, I have done this before. Strategy wise, yeah, there's a good amount of strategy here. You set up your board. Now, I haven't scored very well in this game. I think I've scored pretty much average. I think my last game that I played, I got I think it was 87. I think the top rank is like 120 plus. I never even broke 100. Like I said, 87 I think is the highest. I've got anywhere from like 60s to 80s is kind of where. But that was my last play too, at 87. So I guess the sense is you do get better. You start to realize, okay, I really need to. You got to kind of specialize in a thing. You really you get your board set up, and all the tiles come out in a different spot, more or less. And especially the end game bonuses are likely going to be very different. And you got to kind of match up those with your master cards, and then you got to match that up with the cards that you want to draft. and kind of come up with, at the beginning of the game, a grand plan. And then you just got to kind of stick with that plan, is what the game kind of feels like. So yeah, once you kind of understand that, then you build your strategy around that. There's some luck to the game, of course. You don't know what cards you're going to have available to draft. Those cycle out each time. But aside from that, there's, not much. I mean, even those, it's very, there's a mechanism in the game where you can spend it like a coin and get more cards out. And so you can get cards out, find the ones that you're looking for if you really need to. I didn't really spend a lot of time doing that, but maybe that would help me, push that in the head. Maybe I get into the 90s or the hundreds if I searched a little harder for cards. But the solo design was, it's just, there's not much of a solo design here. The game was designed to play solo, multiplayer solo. You don't really hardly affect anybody else. I mean, even from a multiplayer standpoint, I don't think you do. You would have, I guess, in a multiplayer, there's certain things that kind of one-offs. If you can get your dude to move on the track fast enough and cross a certain line, you can grab this one-time benefit. But in solo, there's fewer that you put out, versus multiplayer, there's a lot more that you put out. So I bet you that kind of just balances out. And from a solo standpoint, so there's no like solo variant really. It was, hardly. It was just sort of sprinkled. I remember when I first went through the rule book, because I'd known, I'd seen people play this game and playing it solo, and just there's a solo variant, and it says 1 to whatever players. But I didn't, when I first zipped through the book, I didn't see anything. I was like, where's the solo variant? Is there a little leaf somewhere, a little separate thing? Nothing. I was kind of like, what, did I miss something? Do I need an expansion? But no, it's in there. There's just like a little section here, like if you're playing solo, just do this. And you're playing solo, do that. And then there's just like a little box that says, when you're playing solo, rank yourself according to the score. Are you a scholar? Are you a dean? Are you those kind of ranking things. Anyway, so the solo, once you know how to play the game, you know how to play it solo. There's no separate thing you got to do to learn like a new solo variant. so that's nice. So this game is just very, it's simplistic, I guess. Once you, I don't know, it's not simplistic. It's unremarkable, I guess, is maybe the word I'm looking for, and that could just be the fact that I've played a bajillion games. And once you've played a good number of games, I feel like a lot of things just start to feel familiar, and you're looking for something novel, and it gets harder and harder to find, right? The more games you play. And here I just feel like I've experienced all of these mechanisms, and and none of them are really like one of my favorite mechanisms. There's not that's I guess the bottom line for me for this game is I feel like I could play it probably a couple more times and then be that was a pleasant experience. Not something I feel like I'd need to keep in my collection, but just a nice one-off, a good series of games, and they'll just be like, oh, that Newton, I remember, when I played that game, and don't need to play it again, because there's just so many other games out there that I think maybe do all the mechanisms, better or something. I don't know exactly what I'm looking for, but it just felt kind of mundane. So anyway, but replayable, yeah. I think too, if you're a person that hasn't played a lot of games, this might strike you this is a good kind of intro, medium weight Euro solo game that you can get into. And if you haven't played a lot of games, there's going to be a lot of cool stuff here, I think, for you. So for more of a kind of an intro solo, on the heavier side, this has got some cool, quick clicking, fast-paced mechanics that'll it could appeal to a number of solo players, I'm sure. So anyway, that's I think that's about it. I enjoyed my time. It's fun, but is it going to stay in my collection? Yeah, probably not. That was it. That was Newton playing that solo. Please let me know if you have any questions, concerns, or anything down below. And until next time, I appreciate you watching. I'm boardgamerants, and I'm out.